afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, executive editor at Madison365. Once again, forgetting to change the graphic following the intro video. The daily update today is brought to you by Forward Theater Company here in Madison, Wisconsin, presenting 46 plays for America's First Ladies. A journey through history that utilizes comedy, drama, music, dance, and more as it surveys the lives of the women who have served alongside our presidents. It's a biographical, genre bending look at gender, race, and everything else your history teacher never taught you about America. Streaming online starting Saturday, May 8th through the 23rd. Tickets are available now at forwardtheater.com. And anecdotally, this is not part of the paid advertisements, but I've seen I've seen some Overture Center folks who where it was actually filmed on stage. Previous earlier productions from Forward Theater have been like sort of done virtually, but this one was actually performed on stage and filmed on stage so that it could stream for you, so you don't have to come to the theater. And I know some folks who were allowed to be in the theater for that taping, and they said it's very good. So give it a try. May 8th through the 23rd, streaming online. So let's talk COVID and let's talk variants. Okay, the actual spread numbers today are kind of holding steady. Okay, not great, not bad. 667 new cases today. Slightly more tests than yesterday, and therefore slightly more cases. So for the day, we're at about 12%, which is fine because that's only counting new first result tests, right? The 7-day positive test rate actually fell a little bit, down to 3.3%, which is good. We like to see that number going down. It has been going up, inching up slightly for the past several days, and it hit 3.4% yesterday. Is now 3.3%. Now, of course, this number is the percentage of tests in the past 7 days that have returned a positive result, regardless of variant or anything like that. It's just a yes or no, you have COVID or not. We want that to be below 3%. There's nothing magic about 3%, but you talk to public health folks, they'll tell you if your positive test rate is below 3%, that means you more or less have it under control, right? Because at that level, it means you're testing enough. That means you're not overwhelmed with cases. That means you can contact trace those cases that you have, that kind of stuff. So 3.3 is not terrible. I mean, we were at one point last fall, we were like at 14%. It was crazy. Now at 3.3 is not awful. It's not great. I would much rather it be like 2.3. Okay. So again, the actual numbers are doing okay. 14 fatalities reported today. Again, these are some of these are older deaths that occurred in previous months that are just not being reported. Some of them are probably a legitimate slight increase in fatalities. What we are seeing is this sort of mini surge in cases that we're seeing right now are leaning younger, right? We have like 75% of Wisconsinites over 65 are vaccinated, right? We're seeing the spread now in younger folks, 20 to 40, who are less likely to die from it. So even a spike in cases among that age range is not going to necessarily lead to a spike in deaths, right? Although there will be some deaths that could have been avoided, but it's not going to be a big surge. It's not going to get to 60 a day like it was in the fall, right? Now, let's talk about variants, though. As you might remember, we've been getting this update every once a week. I think I have a mistake here. I got to check on. No, that's right. So they've been taking a random sample of positive cases and sequencing the DNA of those viruses, and that's how they determine whether or not it's a variant, an identified variant that has been sort of flagged as a problem. So to date, They've been doing this for almost 2 months now. And so far, they've sequenced 12,054 cases. Out of those, 16.25% have been a variant of some kind. So the vast majority of those cases that they've done so far over the past 2 months have been sort of regular old coronavirus. Right? Problem. Last week, there was about 600 cases that were sequenced last week. Of those, about half were B117. That's UK variant. Now, that was last Thursday. This Thursday's update is worse than that. We have about 1,100 new cases that have been sequenced. Actually, 1,095, so just under 1,100. Out of those, 634 are UK variant. 58% are UK variant. So, if that is truly a random and representative sample, there's no reason to believe it's not. That means that of today's 667 cases, it's reasonable to infer that about 386 of those are UK variant. Why is this a problem? UK variant is not more dangerous to you as an individual. It's not going to make you more sick, and it's not more likely to make you die, and it is not likely to get around the vaccine. Right? Vaccines, so far, are equally effective against all the variants. Okay. Problem is, it's more transmissible. It's more contagious. So of those, 65% of us who aren't vaccinated yet are more likely to catch that UK variant than they would the regular coronavirus, which means that if we don't continue and push hard to get everybody vaccinated, these numbers that are holding steady right now could very quickly take a turn. If we continue to have this variant become a majority of the new infections, things could go very wrong very quickly. What that means is get vaccinated as soon as you can, and until you're vaccinated, even after you're vaccinated, keep your mask on, right? Keep your distance until we get this thing completely beat. That's my concern about the variants is that we have let our guard down, and now these variants are going to take over and go bonkers, and it's not going to go well. We also saw 10 new cases of the South Africa variant, about almost 36 new cases of the Brazil variant, and just over 100 new cases, about 120 new cases, I guess, of the California variant just in the past 7 days. So not great. Don't love that. But at the same time, we're still at 30,000 vaccine shots a day. So obviously we're getting a lot more vaccines done every day than new cases are happening, right? So that's good. We're now at 35.8% fully vaccinated. We're at 43.9% have gotten at least one shot. And some public health people are saying as soon as we get 50% of us to have one shot, we'll start to see that impact on the day-to-day spreading numbers. So our numbers should take a turn downward as soon as we get to 50% with one shot, which should happen in the next, probably week to 10 days, as long as we keep getting vaccinated. So as soon as you're able to get your shot, get it, right? If it's just an inconvenience for you, get over it, get the shot, get it done, so we can push this behind us. We'll be talking tomorrow about some efforts, some vaccine awareness stuff that's going to be happening next week. That should be really beneficial, I hope, for folks here, especially in Dane County. All right, that is the coronavirus news. Stay with us. I have lots of other local news to talk through, local, state, and national news to talk through on the other side of this break. We'll be back right after this word from UW Health.
Here in the Midwest, community is important.
Having a healthcare system that's looking out for us,
that's actively addressing the racial disparities in healthcare is important.
When we can get good quality care, we can do more. We can achieve more.
We can be the kind of community we want to be, and that's really important.
UW Health. Remarkable medicine. Remarkable care.
All right, today, the new episode of Real Talk with Henry Sanders. It's a tough one. It's actually, I almost want to give a content warning to this one because there's a lot about. This is Judge Everett Mitchell. If you don't know, he's a pastor, he's an attorney, he's now a judge here in Dane County. He's the chief judge of the juvenile division here in Dane County, and he's survived a lot of abuse as a child and a lot of difficulty. He talks in this episode of Real Talk about that, about how that shaped him, about going to college, being basically unable to read, overcoming a lot. It's a really, really good listen, but also a difficult listen. So it's at Madison365.org/Real Talk. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to the podcast. But just go to Madison365.org/Real Talk and click on it, and then you can. Whichever means you like, if you want to watch it or listen to it, it's all there. Wherever you get podcasts, you can find this. Yeah, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you go, you can give this a listen. Centro Hispano here in Dane County is announcing a new program to encourage saving among Latino women. This is funded by CUNA Mutual in partnership with several credit unions. And there's going to be some incentives and some education and stuff because Latino women especially are living longer, but have barriers to saving, which means they're not having as much liquidity and money to live on, sort of as they age. So that's the kind of the impetus behind this partnership. And Malik Anderson has that story for us on the site today. Also today, the UW Diversity Forum coming up November 2nd and 3rd. We announced one of these keynotes last week, but the new the second keynote is going to be Stephen Canals, who you see here, who is a producer and who's the creator and executive producer of Pose, the FX drama series about New York drag culture, especially among people of color, going back to the late 80s, early 90s. It's a fantastic show if you haven't watched it. But he's the Stephen Canals here is the creator of that show, and he's going to be the second keynote speaker at the Diversity Forum, once again coming up November 2nd and 3rd. Also today, Francesca Hong, state representative, the first Asian American in the Wisconsin State Legislature, is a co-sponsor of a new bill, along with a bipartisan coalition. Representative Patrick Snyder of Wausau, and Ron Tussler from Harrison, Wisconsin, Eric Wimberger from Green Bay, all Republicans, and then Katrina Shanklin from Democrat from Stevens Point is also a co-sponsor of this bill that would require, this is a quote, at all grade levels, an understanding of human relations, particularly with regard to Hmong Americans and Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Desi Americans. We just got out of April was Hmong Heritage Month. May is APIDA Heritage Month, AAPIDA, Asian American, Pacific Islander, Desi American. Wisconsin has the third largest Hmong American population in the United States. So this is really relevant to Wisconsin. And this bill, like I said, has a bipartisan support and was just introduced today. So we'll keep an eye on that as it goes through the legislature. Speaking of Hmong Americans, this is Michael Vang, the first ever Hmong American professional soccer player. But the reason he's on here is the Forward Madison last night reveals their new home jersey. They didn't play at home last year in Madison, so they're returning to Madison to play their home games. And it's the white sash here represents the isthmus between the lakes. You'll notice the dark blue sleeves are also new, and the blue chevron pattern here is also new. Fort Madison has become kind of famous for their very, very cool jerseys. So this is an unusually exciting announcement of a new shirt, basically. This dropped last night. And finally, in national news, hate crimes against Asian Americans are the reported number of hate crimes against Asian Americans is increased by over 150% from last year. This is a study from the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at Cal State University San Bernardino. As just say more specific, reported hate crimes against Asians in 16 of the nation's largest cities and counties are 164% more higher since the same time last year. So even, this time last year, the pandemic was in full swing, right? People, we were already a month and a half into quarantine at this point last year. And still a year later, hate crimes against Asian Americans is up 164%. Preliminary data obtained from over a dozen of the nation's largest police jurisdictions indicate 95 anti-Asian hate crimes reported to authorities in the first quarter of 2021. 36 of the same incidents in the first quarter of 2020. Of course, that's just in those 16 jurisdictions. We know that there were hate crimes against Asian Americans here in Madison, that aren't part of that data, but just nationwide, it's just increased over the past year. So that we've got that CNN report on Madison365.org right now if you want more data on that. And that is your update for today. You are now fully informed. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with the It's Only 10 Minutes podcast with more news. And then I'll be back tomorrow again at 4 o'clock with your update for Friday. Have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you again soon.
This is 365 Media.